able to bear her husband's surname. The Southerner believed that if she wanted to return the Duke's emotions, she had to stick to him. The man was not very pleased that the heroine was going to watch him in his dreams. Therefore, the lady explained that she did not mean anything bad, she just wanted to look at his cute, sleeping face. Reynald noticed that the strange behavior made him nervous, so he asked him to continue in the same vein. Schur remarked that she always acts from the heart and has no hidden meaning. The Duke replied that he was ready to do anything to get his emotions back. Therefore, the girl gladly promised to get on his nerves in the future. When the issue of marriage was resolved, the Duke began to pull off his gloves. He warned immediately that the girl should not expect a relationship closer from him than official spouses. After that, he put his fingerprint on the document, as promised. Schur promised that she would work hard for the bright future of the Duke and the entire North. Although it was not necessary, the girl wanted to do it herself. First of all, she asked the Duke to change the handle and the shirt he had used before. After returning from the expedition, most of the knights went to the training field. The lady went there to see the men and said that the Duke had accepted her marriage proposal. With this, she greatly surprised all the assembled knights, especially Commander John. Getting rid of surprise, the men immediately rushed to congratulate their new mistress. Even Peter the butler and Athena the head maid were glad that the Duke would no longer be alone. The knights began to bombard their new mistress with a huge number of questions. However, John noted that the marriage registration was not yet completed, so everyone should return to their seats. He told the new mistress that the girl was interfering with the knights' studies, so she should leave. The lady admitted that she wanted to see how her future husband trained. However, John noticed that he did not need these basic trainings due to his great strength and skill. By doing so, he hoped to scare Schur away, but she was only even more happy. The knight continued to insist that the girl leave and not follow the training. He noticed that the knights were worried about the arrival of a new mistress, so they couldn't concentrate. During their altercation, Duke Reynald himself came to the training ground. He wondered why the Southerner was outside in such cold weather. The butler and the head maid immediately greeted their master. The Duke immediately noticed that his fiancée was wearing a cloak that he himself wears during the expedition. The girl admitted that she just asked and it was brought to her, and left a new pen on the table. Now the Duke realized what this unknown box was lying on his desk in his study. As expected, the Duke did not care at all about the actions of the Southerner, so it would be difficult for her to fill the gap in his emotions. Ronald admitted that he expected such interest in his training from the swordsman's daughter. The bride admitted that she was not going to take his cape, because she was only interested in those things that the Duke had been wearing for a long time. After that, Reynald turned to his protégé and asked which of them wanted to train with him in pairs. One knight volunteered to be the first, but the Duke still wanted to fight his commander first. Schur was worried that John had a real sword, and Reynald had a wooden sword. However, the man noticed that everything was fine, and soon she would understand everything herself. At the same moment, the Southerner saw the art of swordsmanship, which was created to fight monsters, not people. The Duke attacked as if his only goal was to cut his opponent in half. The bride remembered that in the original novel, it was said that he loses emotions when he uses a sword. Feelings for beautiful landscapes, for people, all this becomes a blank slate. Blaine can be called a perfect example because morality, princes, or temporary impulses are not important to him. The only thing that was valued was how well a person with high standards of sword proficiency conformed. If the head of the family, Blaine, cannot set these standards, then the skills of his subordinates can be questioned. There was a brief mention in the novel that the Blaine family has been brutally training their heirs for generations. However, our heroine did research and knew that there was no one to replace the Duke, so he tried to return his emotions at any cost. A year later, there will be an abnormal increase in the number of monsters, which will sweep away almost all the punitive troops of the North. The girl was uncomfortable seeing it live, because then the rest could become a reality. However, she chased these thoughts away and thought only about how to help her future husband. In the original, it was mentioned that the girl has healing powers, because when the real villainess was executed, the pierced places were filled with flowers. She could not use her power through a sword, but this only became clear after her death. The lady knew that healing must have something to do with flowers, and hoped to find a hint in the novel. She thought that the real villainess did not pick flowers to annoy her father. She was distracted from her thoughts by the Duke, who suddenly ended his training and approached the girl. He noticed that the girl asked to show her fencing, but she herself did not even watch. Only now did the lady realize that the training was over, and John was exhausted. The girl admitted that she was just worried, so she could not look at the battle normally. However, she promised that over time she would get used to this type of sport and would be able to watch every workout of her beloved husband. The man noticed that the north is a rather dangerous place, so it will be problematic if the girl reacts like this every time. However, she was thinking about how to make his feelings manifest even when it was necessary to use a sword. With a smile on her face, the bride asked to bring her a bouquet of flowers every time the Duke needed to take the sword in his hands. John was angry that the girl asked to bring her a bouquet of flowers every time, even though they didn't have a single flower on the estate. In the north, flowers grow extremely rarely, so you will have to go east for a fresh bouquet. The Duke admitted that he decided to listen to all her wishes, so he still asked to find a bouquet. Reynold knew that he hadn't felt any emotion for a very long time. Now he could say it with certainty. The girl takes things and gives others in return, asks to show a workout that does not interest her. All this is very annoying. Fear, excitement, and so on. The Duke quickly gets used to all this and loses sensitivity. That was why he needed any changes to use the sword. And it was for this reason that the Duke decided to trust his future wife and fulfill her requests. In fact, he could feel the girl trying her best to annoy him. At this time, his bride was sitting in her room and asking the maid if she had received anything. Schuer understood that it was very difficult to find flowers in the north in one day, so she wanted to start growing. Even the maid admitted that the winter was especially harsh for flowers, but nothing else was suitable. Netri's power, the blossoming energy of the sword, is only transmitted to one person per generation. In this generation, Irina blossomed as a poisonous flower, and the Duke's power faded, but after the death of the villain, flowers also appeared. The girl did not know how two people in the Netri family blossomed in one generation at once, but she definitely needed flowers to speed up the process of unleashing power. If the key to this is the cultivation of flowers, then it will be better to deviate from the original in order to awaken strength earlier. It was at that moment that someone outside knocked and reported that the Duke was looking for his bride. The girl immediately rushed to the door and opened it as wide as possible. Her beautiful future husband was standing on the threshold, holding flowers in his hands. It turned out to be a single branch of the camellia, tied with a wide white ribbon. The Duke said that this branch had been cut from a tree in the greenhouse of a marquis from the east. The Duke admitted that in the current situation it will be difficult to find a bouquet in one day, but next time he will try better. The man admitted that it was John who noticed the flowers during their return to the north. The Duke also noted that if the girl did not like the flowers, then she could give them away and wait for the next ones. However, the bride immediately hid the flowers behind her back and said that she would be happy with any gift. She admitted that she could not help but like the gift if it was cut by the hands of her future husband. After that, the Duke immediately wanted to leave, but the girl stopped him. She wanted to get permission from him to use the garden in the estate. Immediately after Reynold left, Schuer asked the maid to bring her the thickest hardcover album and vase. The girl intended to save the flowers and a wide white ribbon from them for the future. She carefully removed the ribbon and folded it right into the middle of the album between the sheets of paper. Sherry was surprised that her mistress wanted to grow flowers on her own. She immediately noticed that the Duke's bride had taken the flowers, after which they began to shine in her hands. After touching them, the faded flowers became fresh and full of energy again. However, in addition to this, a very faint but still noticeable glow emanated from them. Only now did the heroine realize that the real villain was not trying to annoy her father. She only saved flowers that were dying, thanks to which the heroine discovered a new ability. However, the effect of her abilities was very short-lived, which upset our heroine. The girl thought that her strength lay in something else, so she asked the servant to give her a hand. Schuer carefully took Sherry's hand in hers and tried to focus on the inner energy. After a while, she asked if the girl felt any changes. However, nothing happened without flowers, so the heroine thought that healing does not work on people. The lady realized that she needed to keep trying to increase her power through flowers. That is why the girl decided not to put the flowers in a vase, but to plant them in the garden. However, the maid said that the ground in the north was so frozen that all the gardeners were dismissed several years ago. However, the future Duchess was not going to give up and offered to slowly start cultivating the land. The girl wanted to start doing this immediately, but the maid noticed that it was already late and she should get ready for bed. The next day, the irritated chief of the knights, John, came to an audience with the Duke's bride. The girl was lying on her bed, and the maid was making her a mask from fresh cucumbers. The knight was very annoyed that he was forced to climb the snow to find flowers. Sherry was unhappy that her mistress was moving all the time, causing the cucumber mask to constantly fall off. In fact, the girl was very inspired by the fact that she would be able to participate in a meeting on punitive expeditions. She asked John if she would be allowed to place a vase of flowers on the table in the meeting room. The man was annoyed by her question and asked what kind of horrible flowers she wanted to use. However, he immediately recognized the flowers as very beautiful and agreed to put them on the table after learning that the Duke had given them as a gift. The bride guessed that her maid had begun the preparations because she knew about the meeting in advance. Thanks to Sherry, she learned that this is a meeting that brings together heads of families from across the region. Most of the monsters attack from the north, but there are some that wander the rest of the territories. That is why she advised her mistress to look out confident and impress the owner of the magic tower. After a while, the Duke was working in his study, and his bride was sitting and watching him. The girl asked if he liked the pen she gave him. The man did not want to lie, so he honestly admitted that its length did not suit him very well. After that, the girl admitted that in addition to the handle, she also ordered a new chest of drawers. The time passed quickly during the conversation, and it was time to go to the meeting. The Duke took his bride by the hand, which made her indescribably delighted. Reynald warned that he would not be left to accompany the bride if she behaved so terribly. After that, he carefully took the girl's hand and helped her up from her seat. After that, they went to the meeting together to attend the discussion. They were holding hands, so Schuer wanted this time to pass as long as possible. On their way to the meeting, they came across a butler who announced the arrival of the great magician. He also told his mistress that all her instructions regarding the preparation of garden tools were followed. The girl told her future husband that she had bought several additional tools because there was almost nothing in the palace. Around the corner, they were happily greeted by several knights who were very happy to see the future mistress. They admitted that in between trainings they were engaged in the construction of a fence, which the girl asked them for. The Duke noticed how his future wife communicated well with all his subordinates. The lady admitted that these were the knights who had previously guarded her room, so she asked for their help. As a thank you, the girl asked her future husband to call the guys by name at the next meeting. After that, they were immediately approached by Nigel, who admitted that the new fence turned out to be wonderful. The Duke became more and more irritated by the fact that on the way they met more and more people who distracted them from their work. The first thing the Duke did during the meeting was to introduce his companion as the future Grand Duchess. Silence reigned at the table because those present did not expect such a rapid development of events. The master of the magic tower, Riley, who was engaged in sending magicians and magic stones, expressed doubts about the girl's well-being. He thought that the marriage was forced by the Marquis, and it would be very difficult for the girl to be in the north. All mages of the continents are subordinate to the magic tower, and only the archmage is able to provide mages. In other words, Riley aids in the search for and killing monsters, provides magic stones for the expedition to the north, and is a key figure in the duchy's long-term plans. The guy expressed doubt about how well the girl would cope with her duties. Schuer knew that the guy only looked young at first glance. In fact, it was impossible to know his age. Out of excitement, the girl pulled John's uniform, which he did not like very much. The lady hoped that it would stand out favorably against the background of a very pale knight. However, then the Duke stood up for her and said that their marriage was consensual. In addition, Reynald was interested in when the mage began to walk around his estate and be interested in the dug-up garden. Riley replied that he was attracted by the faint magic coming from the garden. After that, the men began to argue about whether to provide more magi to support the military units. At this point, the Marquis of the Northwest region and the head of the family, Charlie Henner, entered the conversation. He was supported by the Baron of the Northeastern Lands, Arthur Smith, who also expressed fears about the Duke's loss of emotion. In addition, the man was interested in the fact that a vase of flowers had been forgotten on the table in the meeting room. The heroine admitted that this was a gift from the Duke, which he presented to her from his last campaign. The Baron noticed that this branch had been plucked in his garden and inquired about the girl's past. The man was glad that after this wedding, the two great swordsmen would be united. The Baron's lands were far enough away from the others, so he did not yet know that the girl had renounced her family and would not inherit it. The heroine decided to correct this oversight and said directly that she was not the heiress of her family. She admitted that she is the eldest in her family, but she is much more interested in the Duke. She was glad that she was able to move north and be with her husband, so she asked to be called by her new surname. At this moment, the Duke addressed his bride only by her first